Did you know some animals never actually die the way we think they do? Most creatures that pass away rot within days or get torn apart by scavengers long before their bones even have a chance to fossilize. Permafrost is something different though. Instead of breaking the animal down, it locks the body solid in the exact position it was in during its final seconds alive. Sometimes with its eyes still open, sometimes mid-stride, and then it just waits. Sometimes for thousands of years, sometimes for tens of thousands, until a river shifts or a shovel hits the wrong patch of ground and it's back in the light. And almost every time scientists cut into one of these bodies, they find something nobody expected: a wound that never healed, blood that shouldn't still exist, a skeleton that doesn't match its own label. These aren't just preserved animals, they're ancient cold cases that scientists are still trying to solve. Today, we're looking at 8 of the most disturbing frozen animals ever pulled from the ice. On June 21, 2022, gold miners were stripping frozen ground on Eureka Creek in Canada's Yukon when their machinery scraped against something that wasn't rock or gravel. It was a baby woolly mammoth curled up exactly the way she died more than 30,000 years ago. The Trondequechin First Nation named her Nun Cho Ga, meaning big animal baby. She still had her skin, her trunk, and patches of hair intact, making her the most complete mummified mammoth ever found in North America. Geologists believe an intense summer storm triggered a landslide right around the time she died, burying her almost instantly in mud that froze solid before scavengers or bacteria could touch her. That's part of why she looks less like a fossil and more like she simply fell asleep in the mud yesterday. Scientists compared her directly to Lyuba, a nearly identical baby mammoth found in Siberia, and the resemblance was almost eerie: 2 calves born a continent apart, both erased by the same kind of sudden, silent disaster. Nun Cho Ga has since traveled across the country to conservation labs, still being studied, still keeping most of her 30,000-year-old secrets to herself. Next is a foal that shouldn't have anything left to study at all. In August 2018, a team excavating Siberia's Botagaika crater, a mile-wide scar in the permafrost locals call the gateway to the underworld, pulled out a foal barely 1 to 2 weeks old. It belonged to an extinct species called the Lena horse. And when researchers performed the autopsy, they found something that shouldn't have survived 42,000 years: liquid blood still sitting inside the heart's vessels. Not frozen, not powder, liquid. It was, at the time, the oldest blood ever recovered on Earth. The muscle tissue still held its natural reddish color, the bladder still held preserved urine, and the coat still showed its original bay-brown color with a black mane and tail. Researchers believe the foal drowned in mud that then froze around it before it had time to decompose, sealing every soft tissue in place like a switch flipped to off. Scientists have since made more than 20 separate attempts to grow living cells from that blood, hoping to eventually clone the extinct species back into existence. So far, every attempt has failed, but the blood is still sitting in a freezer in Yakutsk, technically viable more than 40,000 years after the animal that made it took its last breath. Not every frozen body tells a peaceful story. In 1979, gold miners near Fairbanks, Alaska hit something with a hydraulic hose that wasn't gravel either. It was a mummified steppe bison, and when paleontologist Dale Guthrie examined the body, the evidence read like a crime scene. Claw marks raked across its hindquarters, deep puncture wounds from teeth, and lodged directly in its neck, the broken tip of a predator's tooth. An American lion, roughly 20% larger than today's African lions, had ambushed the bison from the side, peeling back its hide and exposing the ribs before the animal finally went down in the early winter cold. The kill was interrupted almost immediately because the ground beneath the carcass froze before other scavengers could finish the job, locking in a snapshot of an actual predator attack from 36,000 years ago. The mummy earned its nickname Blue Babe from a strange mineral reaction in its skin that turned the hide a metallic blue when exposed to air. And in one of the stranger footnotes in paleontology, the researchers who excavated it were curious enough to cut off a piece of its neck, cook it, and eat 36,000-year-old bison meat. The next case isn't about how an animal died. It's about a mistake nobody caught for 15,000 years. In 2017 and 2018, a local tusk hunter named Boris Berezhnev found 2 cave lion cubs on the banks of Russia's Semyuelyak River, lying just 15 meters apart. Everyone assumed they were siblings from the same litter, maybe killed in the same landslide. Radiocarbon dating proved that theory completely wrong. The cub named Sparta died 28,000 years ago. The cub beside her, named Boris, died 15,000 years earlier than that. Two cubs that never could have met each other in life ended up buried within arm's reach of each other in death. Sparta is considered the best preserved Ice Age animal ever discovered, with her fur, whiskers, teeth, and internal organs still fully intact. Researchers found no bite marks and no scavenger damage on either cub, meaning something buried them almost instantly, most likely a sudden dengue collapse. Cave lions like these were up to 20% larger than modern African lions and sat at the very top of the Ice Age food chain with no natural predators of their own. Yet here they are, two apex predators from completely different eras of the same Ice Age, resting 15 meters apart in a laboratory freezer instead of the tundra. Some frozen animals leave scientists arguing about what they even are. In the summer of 2018, mammoth tusk hunters in Yakutia stumbled onto a puppy so well preserved that its eyelashes, whiskers, and milk teeth were all still in place. Researchers named him Dogor, meaning friend in the local Yakut language, and quickly realized the name doubled as a pun for the question they couldn't answer. Was he a dog or a wolf? Dogor lived roughly 18,000 years ago, right in the exact evolutionary window when wolves and the first domesticated dogs would have looked and behaved almost identically. Scientists ran DNA sequencing not once but twice, and both times the results came back too ambiguous to settle the debate. It took a third, far larger genomic study analyzing over 70 ancient wolf genomes spanning 100,000 years before researchers finally confirmed in 2022 that Dogor was, in fact, a wolf. For 4 years, an animal named after the word friend left scientists across multiple countries completely stumped about which side of the wolf-to-dog split he belonged to. Sometimes the mistake goes the other way entirely. In 2020, reindeer herders on a remote Siberian island found a bear carcass so intact that its claws, nose, and internal organs looked untouched by time. Researchers initially assumed it was an extinct Ice Age cave bear, a species that had vanished roughly 22,000 years ago, and announced the find as a landmark discovery. Then they ran a full necropsy. The bear wasn't 22,000 years old at all. It was a completely ordinary brown bear that had died only 3,500 years ago, a species that's still alive today. Scientists had misidentified an extinct predator for a living one, and nobody caught the mistake until they cut the animal open. Inside its stomach, they found partially digested plants and bird feathers, its literal last meal, still sitting there after 3.5 millennia. They removed the bear's brain for future study and stitched the skull back together by hand. The island the bear was found on sits roughly 30 miles from the mainland, and to this day, nobody knows for certain how the bear got there in the first place. For 200 years, nobody actually knew what this next predator looked like. In 2020, prospectors searching for mammoth tusks along Siberia's Bodyarika River pulled a frozen clump of fur out of the riverbank, expecting nothing more than scrap. It turned out to be the head and front half of a 3-week-old saber-toothed cat cub, the first mummified saber-tooth ever found on Earth. Paleontologists had only fossilized bones to guess from before this. No one had ever actually seen what these animals look like in the flesh. The cub changed that overnight. Its mouth opened far wider than a modern lion's, its neck was strangely massive, its ears were small and rounded, and its paws lacked the cushioned wrist pads that help today's cats absorb the shock of running. Its fur came in a plain, uniform dark brown with none of the spots or stripes researchers expected from an animal built for the open, grassy mammoth steppe. Radiocarbon dating placed the cub at roughly 35,000 years old. One paleontologist who studied the mummy said it felt like reality had shifted because after 2 centuries of guessing, the actual face of a saber-toothed cat finally existed. The last case is the one nobody has ever fully explained. In the summer of 2018, a local man named Pavel Yefimov was walking along the Terek River in Siberia when he spotted something sticking out of a crumbling wall of permafrost. It was the head of a fully grown Ice Age wolf, 16 inches long, roughly twice the size of a modern wolf's skull, with its fur, fangs, and even its brain still intact inside. There was no body attached anywhere nearby. Researchers confirmed it was the first adult Pleistocene wolf ever found with its soft tissue preserved, something that had never happened before, even with the dozens of wolf pups already recovered from Siberian ice. CT scans let scientists study the wolf's brain without ever cutting it open, and DNA analysis linked it to an extinct subspecies that hunted alongside woolly mammoths roughly 32,000 years ago. What nobody has ever explained is why only the head survived, with no trace of the rest of the body found anywhere in the surrounding permafrost. Somewhere in that Siberian riverbank, an Ice Age predator lost its head thousands of years before a single human being ever set foot in that part of the world, and the rest of it is still out there, still missing. Permafrost keeps melting, and more cold cases keep surfacing. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.